Now, I come to my next point, the Western concept. Now, I'm referring to what I called classical modern humanism. And that is not the humanism of the Renaissance. It is not the humanism of the humanistas. It is not the humanism of Erasmus von Rotterdam and other famous scholars in early modern Western history. I'm referring to modern humanism, and that is a humanism in Europe at the end of the 18th and the beginning of the 19th century. I will mainly refer to German representatives of this humanism. And I think they are very good representatives. It is Mozart's magic flute. And of course, philosophers like Kant, Schiller, Herder, Humboldt. So the poets Goethe, Schiller, and others. This classical modern humanism. It is based on what I would call the anthropological turn of intellectual life in the West. Now, what is the anthropological turn? It is a turn of philosophy and related attempts to understand the world and human life from cosmological, metaphysical dimensions to the human being itself. So, to be a man, anthropology in a certain way is a basis for getting the answers to the main questions of cultural orientation. The best examples I know for this turn are Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, but there are a lot of others. But Thomas Hobbes is not a humanist. He said, the man is to the other man a wolf. That is not humanism. And you need a certain turn within this anthropological turn, and then the end will be humanism. Referring to Kant brings about a first general statement. First of all, Kant is based on the anthropological turn. He says all human beings have to answer at least three main questions of their cultural orientation. What can I know? What should I do? What can I hope for? And then he says you can put all these three universal questions simply into one single question. Was ist der Mensch? What is a human being? And his answer then is a humanistic one. Kant's answer is humanistic since he says every human being is more than only a means to the purpose of others. Every human being is a purpose within him or herself. And this gives every human being what Kant called dignity, to be a purpose within him or herself. I think that with this principle of human dignity, we should enter the intercultural communication. But in order to come closer to the different problems of cultural orientation, we should now go more into the details. What does this mean, dignity of man? It is a concept of humankind, a universalistic concept of humankind with an empirical and a normative quality. Empirically, it means every human being at any time and in any place. And at the same time, this universal dimension of humankind has a normative qualification expressed by this idea of dignity. And that is a time, second half of the 18th century, where modern historical thinking emerged and started with universal history. A second concretization of this humanism is political humanism. And that is not only the idea, but the reality of human and civil rights in modern constitutions, democratic constitutions. That is political humanism. There are other features of humanism which are essential for it. The next one is humanism is universal historicism. That is a very important thing. The universal dimension of humankind is at the same time and essentially a dimension of time, of temporal development, not in something fixed for all time, like some super temporal values or so. No, it is dynamic temporal, and that is historization of humankind. I have wonderful examples. One is Herder's philosophy of history, but there is an Anglo-Saxon one that is the so-called theoretical history of the Scottish Enlightenment, a still valid general theory of social evolution, from the hunters and gatherers to modern civil society. You can read it in Adam Smith, in Ferguson, and the other great Scottish representatives of Enlightenment. That is universal historicism. And at the same time, it is the other side of the same temporalization. Humanism is individualism. That in this temporalized form, mankind or humankind always realizes itself in individual life forms. So all the different cultures or civilizations represent the same humankind in difference. This is the most important point in intercultural communication today. You can articulate it in a slogan: unity of humankind by diversity of cultures. The Chinese are organizing a huge conference next month with 5,000 people, scholars, and the title is World Civilization and Harmony. And harmony is a category of Confucian interpretation. They say harmony is the basic or the supreme category. Within harmony, diversity is allowed. The Western concept is no. The unity of humankind is only manifest in the diversity of cultures, and I think that is a better offer for intercultural communication, as if you came and say, the totality of humankind is best presented in diversity of these principles, which represent the unity of humankind, and that is humanism is individualization. And before I come to the last point of the essentials of humanism, I would like just to list up the turn against something. Against what are these essentials of humanism directed? Let's start the first one. Humanism in its universality. It is a turn against any limitation of specific human values to one group indifferent to other groups. Humanism, political humanism, is a basic turn against any political absolutism, totalitarianism, and authoritarianism. Humanism as universal historicism is a turn against any essentialism in thematizing history. And humanism as individualism is a strict turn against any collectivism. Therefore, Many people in East Asian countries, in Malaysia, Singapore, and China, not in Taiwan, but in the people, they don't like this individualism. The last point is something, I have only a German word for it, is Bildung. In China it means self-cultivation. Don't translate it with education, that is a misleading translation. This humanistic idea of Bildung became the foundations of a new type of university. That is a Berlin university following the ideas of Wilhelm von Humboldt and Friedrich Schleiermacher. I start with the anti position. Bildung is a counter-concept in education against any utilitarianism. Well, the basis for this idea of Bildung is that the qualities of being a human being are not simply given to every human being, so you have it and that's wonderful, but that it is only a potential, a possibility, and you have to realize it in processes of learning and Bildung as a process. So this idea of being a human being, this idea is a dynamic one, and the dynamism of this, the educational dynamism of this humanism, modern societies need competence, experts. You have to learn your business. Bildung means by becoming competent in your special field, at the same time you develop the universalism which is in your own human being. So that is a contrary of being only a specialist. The Greeks have a wonderful word for specialists. They call them idiots, idiotai. These are the people who only know about their business. And they are not relevant. Relevant are the people who know about the real context in which they live together with all the other people. And that was, in the Greek time, the polis. Humanism is even more ambitious. They have the horizon of humankind with its empirical and normative elements. And therefore, Bildung means to train the learners, the students in school and in universities. But in becoming competent, they should become personalities or individuals who know that in their specific life form there are representatives of humankind. Now it is on you to decide whether that is the case in your university or not. I only can tell you, in the Western universities, this great idea has slowly got lost. Only a few universities, in Germany maybe 3 or 4, they are afraid of this loss, so they organized in the curricula of the students elements of teaching and learning where this universal dimension of humanism is cultivated and mediated with a special competence of the different disciplines. And I think I should, at the end of my enthusiasm about Bildung, quote Bertolt Brecht. In that famous piece of Brecht on Galileo, he said, I am afraid of people who get an utilitarian education. They will become, and now I can only say it in German, ein Geschlecht erfinderischer Zwerge, die für jeden Zweck gemietet werden können. This humanistic idea of Bildung, self-cultivation, is the most important principle for history didactics. And I worked in history didactics for a long time, and unfortunately, there are only some elements of this humanism still effective in the whole theory and practice of historical learning and teaching. So we have to do a good deal of work to make history didactics humanistic. And you can check it. Take the textbooks in school. Is mankind the central issue? Normally not. Of course, everybody in history instruction in your country has to learn what Brazil is about. Of course. You need a political identity, and history is necessary for that. But the question is, in what context do you learn that? Are the others there as well? And your national identity, is it formulated in a relationship to others, which of course is full of conflict, of bloodshed and war? This is what the students and the pupils have to learn. To find the general dimension of being a human being, that means dignity, within their special identity and its relationship to the others. This is the red thread in teaching and learning history, and we have to work on it in order to bring it about.